The Financial Accountability and Audit Panel is a city committee. We met for the last time on Monday, March the 14th, 2011. Our membership is John Deutsch. Currently, I am the chair. We rotate the chair pretty much every year. Wendy Loggins is on the group, and she was the chair last year. Spence Leapdale was the chair the year before. And Henry Schultz, I believe, was the chair the first year. No? No? He was the vice chair the first year. Okay. Anyway, staff members present to help us was Elena Galvez and Carbon Magyana, and the finance manager. And I got to tell you what, the staff was been extremely helpful and excellent in guiding us through this process. We end up with a fair amount of documents to review each year: the annual financial report, the review and expenditure statement, financial statement and independent auditor's report, and the engineer's annual levy report. And we go through all of those. Now, each FAAP member, just a few facts for you to get started so that you have a little background, is that each FAAP member was nominated by a city council member and serves for the duration of the nominator's term. FAAP members are also required to do financial disclosures, and we do fill out this Form 700 yearly, and it's on file at City Hall to ensure that there is no conflict of interest as far as your income and what you're reviewing and auditing. FAAP members serve as volunteers, and unlike commissioners, are not paid for their service, so there's no fee designated for every one of our meetings. And the FAAP panel meets approximately 3 to 4 times a year. Now, one of the things about it is that we ask a lot of questions. And a part of the reasons why we ask a lot of questions is because we're not accountants. And we go through all the accounting data, and it looks a little funny, and so you've got to go through, and we line by line this last time went through the entire set of reports, asking questions about each item. And the open space acquisition process is new and evolving. So each year, as we've seen it so far, because we're the first team in place here, each year that we've seen it, the information and the spreadsheets that we're getting are a little bit different because they're trying to figure out exactly how they're going to do it as well. This is the first year that we've actually booked any costs against the open space district. So it's our goal to have a thorough understanding of the open space acquisition process and how they keep the books. And we wanted to know it well enough so that if anybody came to ask us about it or anybody had any thoughts that it might not be on the up and up, they could have to come to us first and we would be able to explain it. Staff members Elena and Carmen were great. They were extremely patient and they completely answered all the questions that we asked. And it was very interesting because we thought, well, maybe, we're going to be bothering these people a little bit too much and they're going to get a little frustrated answering all these questions. But instead, they were kind of happy in the fact that this is what they do for a living, and we were interested in what they were doing, and they were more than welcome to share with us. They did an excellent job. Open space is purchased with resources from a lot of different places, and that's what makes it so complex. The first is the Santa Clarita Open Space District. You currently have an item on your tax bill. I think it was $26 the last time. It'll be $27.50 next time. And that money has certain restrictions with it. But there's also, the city doesn't just purchase, the city just doesn't purchase the open space with that money. Money comes from the LA County Open Space District called Measure A. That's also on your county tax bill. They also get grants, and they also have other contributors. And there are various other contributors. There's also developer fees. And each one of those sources have their own rules. And this was one of our concerns. Because the Santa Clarita Open Space District, the rules are that we will purchase land for which the use will be no more than 10% of that acreage used for active parkland. But some of the other districts or some of the other contributors may have rules that say none of the space can be used for anything except open space. And some may have less stringent requirements. So we had to come up with a way, and we've been looking at a way to ensure that in the future, when any of the usage of these lands comes up, that the decision makers would be able to reach a decision based upon the information of where things come from. Now, what I've done is I've compiled a spreadsheet that looks at every single item that we purchased with open space money. And what I've done, just to give you a feel for this, is I've taken East Walker Ranch, which is one of the items, and not necessarily one of the most complex items, and show you the kind of things that we track. So here, we know that East Walker Ranch was authorized on the May 26th council meeting. It was agenda item 6. It's 140 acres, and it consists of those two parcels. So it's not just one parcel. To make it more complex, it's purchased with money from 4 different sources. And each one of those sources, the money is placed in a different account based upon where it comes from. There was an agreement that that money can be used for that particular acquisition. And so in this case, $736,000 came out of the Open Space Preservation District, but another $650,000 came from another fund, and developer contributions of $800,000, and Proposition A for $250,000. So now the question becomes, if we're ever going to do anything with this land in the future, well, who owns which piece, right? Well, we decided it's not up to us to determine who owns which piece. It's up to us to determine the origin of where the funding came from and what the actual parcels are, so that sometime in the future, if someone says, you know what, I want to use this land for a park, for an active park. Is it possible? How much of that could be used for an active park? And in fact, how do you book it? How do you track it? And so we're keeping track of it that way. The city has decided that's not a bad method as well, and so for each item that they're purchasing, they're putting together a pamphlet that shows that piece of property and where the funding sources came from. Now, at the end, you have to look at it. This is the last part of the spreadsheet to realize that East Walker Ranch, although it was purchased in May, doesn't actually hit the books. It was purchased in May of 2009. It actually doesn't hit the books until September of 2010. So we did not see, this is the first open space acquisition of the open space district, yet it didn't actually hit the books until this year's accounting period, and this is like the 4th year we're working on this. So if you look at it, it was approved by the council on the 26th in 2009, but we actually booked it on September the 10th. The total acquisition was $2.4 million, yet the actual amount that you spent out of the open space district was $736,000. These are the 5 currently authorized acquisitions from the open space district. East Walker Ranch and Placerita Quigley booked on September of 2010. Ellesmere Canyon is estimated to book in the 10-11 time frame. The Rada property also in the 10-11 period. And Wildwood Canyon, which is already authorized, the 11-12 area. So if you look at the data from 6-7 to 9-10, the average spend rate right now for the city in open space, the money that the city actually expends, is $1.46 million per year. So why is that important, and why do we care? Well, with an average spend rate of $1,463,395 a year, it's less than the projected income from your open space preservation district money. Now, this year they collected $1,760,000. I'm sorry. Next year it's projected at $1,760,000 from the $27.50 increase. Okay, and that's without annexations. Remember, every time the city annexes more houses, the amount of money they'll collect goes up, because this particular assessment is put on any homes that will be annexed into the city of Santa Clarita. So right now we borrowed $15 million when the district was formed, and it also created a yearly debt of $700,000 a year in the 08-09 time frame. And that amount of debt repayment increases every year. causing, if you do a projection looking at the average expenditure rate of $1.4 million and an average income of $1.7 million, and then you add in the cost of the loan, $713,000, and you project that over the life of the district, you'll find they're going to run out of money in 2035. And that's not too bad because the district sunsets in 2037. Now, that average spend rate this year, because of Ellesmere, greatly has exceeded the previous average. We've only exceeded that average for 1 out of the 4 years, and right now it's doubtful. It looks doubtful that the city can sustain that current average spend rate. So even at the current average spend rate, the spend rate does not exceed the income, even without annexation anticipated additional income. Borrowing the $15 million of district startup and repayment over the life of the district costs $30 million. You borrow 15, you pay back 30. So you know that there's $15 million there that we're going to spend, and we're going to get nothing for it. We're only going to repay the debt. So our recommendation is, or my recommendation is, the annual assessment, when it comes time to talk about increases this year, should remain at $2,750 for the coming year. And I would ask the city to investigate and report the cost of eliminating that open space debt early. And it'll save our taxpayers the burden of paying the interest on the money that the open space district does not need, because it can sustain its running rate with just the money that we're gaining as income. And if we continue to borrow that money, we'll actually pay an extra $15 million and we'll get nothing for it. But we'd like to compliment Elena and Carmen for all their help and a job well done. They really did a good job. We're really pleased with the outcome, and I think we have a really good feel for how the open space district is going and where it's headed. Is there any questions? Yes, sir. I'll repeat the question. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wondered, do you know if that $50 million is invested someplace where at least some of the interest costs are being recouped?
Yes, actually it is. The question was, is some of that $50 million invested? Yes, it is invested, and the projection that I'm giving you includes the income from that $15 million. My projection includes that as well. So yes. Yes, Spence.
Is it part of that benefit, though, of that $15 million, is the fact that we have that open space around the city? It's like when you buy a house, you pay more than what you pay for it by the time you pay off the mortgage. I don't see where that principle is any different.
Well,
by principle, the concept of the principal amount.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, when I work down in the valley, I'm just really happy that we're going to have this open space between us and the city of Los Angeles.
Well, the concept, you're talking about the concept of borrowing the money. The concept of borrowing the money would say, I'm going to go buy a house, and I need, in order to buy the house, I need $1.4 million a year. And I have an income of 1.7. So why would I want to borrow an additional $15 million? The whole idea is that if you look at their projections on their spend rate and you don't borrow the money, you have $15 million more to spend than you did if you borrowed it. So it's not quite the same, because you're thinking of borrowing a house as the fact that you're borrowing the money to buy the house. And in this case, we're not. Yes, Bertha.
I have a question. You mentioned that each person is nominated by the city council person.
Yes.
And your term runs with their term.
Yes.
Are you reappointed if in fact they're reelected? Or
Yes.
how does that work?
Yes. The individuals are appointed by or nominated by the city council person, and when they elected to the next term, they do ask for you to submit paperwork that says that you want to continue, and you have to be renominated and revoted at the time their term starts. That is correct.
Do you know who nominated each of the people now?
Well, let me see now. I was nominated originally by Tim Ben, and then by Lori Ender when she was elected. Spence, are you? You're Bob Keller. Wendy Loggins is Frank Ferry. Henry Schultz. Yes. Marcia McLean. And so then that's who it was.
The job was nominated by, Lorraine Wilson.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay, cool.